So, when I finish and I say the closing phrase, stay fresh cheese bags, we all pause for just a second, and then I hit stop, and then we're clear to go.
Awesome.
So that's the only...
That's the short version.
That's the very short version. I'm getting better at it, Mark. I'm trying.
That's good information.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. J.A. Goldenberg. That's our guy, right? Yep, Jay Goldenberg.
Yep.
Executive producer level patron.
Am I sending you the updated patrons?
No, I usually do that. But, he's only been a patron since January 12th. Okay. So that's why I haven't seen it, because I haven't checked in a little bit. All right. Jay Goldenberg.
Somebody's going to win like little golden Willy Wonka tickets, and the prize is a Jada prototype, if I understood that right. Okay.
Yeah. It's like Willy Wonka, if you bring your sick grandpa, he's going to jump out of bed,
By the way, what do you think that bed smelled like? There was 4 old people in that bed all day.
I don't like to think about that too much.
Yeah, I've never have, David.
Are we ready, Chuck? Because I'm going to go down all kinds of weird
Please stop. Now, we want Darryl to actually want to come back on the show.
We've known Darryl 7 minutes.
All righty, everybody. And 3, 2...
You're watching Diecast Breakdown with Chuck Ellis, David Johns, and Mark McHotwheel. So sit back, strap in, and hang on. The breakdown starts now.
Well, hey there, folks. Chuck here, and welcome to Diecast Breakdown. We're so glad you're here. I want to give a special welcome, of course, to our executive producer level patrons that help make the show go, including a brand new executive producer level patron, Mr. Jay Goldenberg. Welcome, sir. He's been a follower for quite some time and is joining us at the $20 a month level. That is impressive, and we are very grateful for it. Along with him, we are grateful for First and 64th Customs, Dane Self, DrivenDreams.org. Thank you, Mark. Jason, Mad Visions. Thank you, Pia. Mike Swanson Customs, Reviews Through Another Lens, Twice Diecast. Thank you, David. And, of course, Video Geek Productions, who has joined us from the very beginning, before this show was even a show. And if you want to join their ranks, you can visit diecastbreakdown.com, where you can find merch and social media links, and, of course, DrivenDreams.org, our cause that Mark is running. We're joining with him and folks around the world to raise 20,000 diecast cars for kids in need. That is brand new in packaged vehicles, as well as any brand, maybe a specific brand. We'll get to that in a minute, but you can donate them to anywhere around the world that receives donated items for children in need. And then we tally all those scores up and we add them all together and we get a really nice big number. And that's how we spread the joy of tiny cars around the world. One car equals one what, Mark?
Smile.
Thank you very much. And that was my co-host, Mark Berenson. Mark, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Chuck. Thank you for asking.
And I am joined also by my co-host, Mr. David Johns of Twice Diecast. David, how are you?
Good. How are you, Chuck?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. It's so nice that you asked.
Mark taught me that.
We are going to be talking about tiny cars, and we're counting down the days to our appearance at Diecast Supercon, where you can find us wandering the floor of the Las Vegas Ahern. Is it Ahern? Ahern Hotel. We will be checking people out, interviewing, and streaming from the event. So if you see us, be sure to come by and say hi.
If we look lost, just ask if we need help.
We probably do. We will probably need a lot of help. But helping us tonight is a guest who will also be at Diecast Supercon. His name is Darryl Li. He is the Director of Brand Management for a little organization you may have heard of called Jada. They shook things up a bit in the late 90s with a little diecast brand or two that you may have heard of, and they're still kicking butt and taking names in the 2020s with some amazing diecast cars, and that's what we'll be talking about with Darryl today. Darryl, thanks so much for joining us today on Diecast Breakdown.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited.
We are excited to have you here. We've had Jada on our sites for quite a while, and we're flattered that you've given us this time to sit down and talk about stuff. So for those who don't know, let's go back to the beginning and let's talk about how Jada entered the tiny car world.
Yeah, so Jada was founded by a husband and wife, so privately owned company. Really put its foot on the map back in 2004 and onward with a small brand you guys might have heard of, Dub City. We really that really cemented our legacy and our push forward into who we are today. But really just kind of owning the vehicles with the big chrome wheels and the spinners and really leaning into that. And so we've always referred to that internally as Jada style. And that's kind of carried on with a lot of the castings that you've seen up to this point. So that's kind of where the nice glory days were. And these days we've really transformed ourselves to be a full-fledged toy company. So certainly vehicles is a very big component or aspect to our business as we are here in 2025. But we've also added action figures, and we've also done preschool radio control vehicles as well. Not only that, within our core IP, we've also grown our licensing portfolio. And so we work with all the major entertainment studios out here in LA that you can think of: Universal, Disney, Warner Brothers, Sony, Marvel, to name a few. So it's been quite the journey. We're excited to see where it's going to go 2025 and beyond.
Along with those brands, some other ones that I really loved. I loved Bad City Heat, Big Time Customs, Big Time Muscle, of course. The For
Still
Sale
going on today. Yeah.
The For Sale series is one of my favorites of all time. I still pick those up whenever
Chuck
I can
talks
find
about
them.
it
I do.
every other episode.
No.
That was a great one.
That was a great one. Battle Machines, a classic, especially if you're one of those people that plays Car Wars or Gaslands. It's ready-made right out of the box. Mad Max vehicles ready to rock and roll across your wasteland.
Still available today as well.
Yep. D-Rods, just the list goes on. And even Chubb City, which is kind of a precursor to a lot of the tuned cars that are so popular these days.
That's correct.
So you and our old buddy Lou were really tearing it up back then. You're still tearing it up now. So what is it that you really see besides the Jada style? Like, what is it that you see that people come to Jada for most often when it comes to cars?
Jada's core DNA is all about great price, quality, and affordability, right? So you're talking on average, what we're known for is the 124 scale. And so on average, you find that at retail for about $15, right? $20 if there's a license. So you're talking in that range. Now, for that price point, you get something that we feel is incomparable to any other thing that's on the shelf, because not only is it a 24 scale, but the quality paint execution, the interior details, you still get the opening doors, the hood, the trunk, all that good stuff. It's just highly, highly collectible. And we've stayed with that DNA through these times with inflation and everything else going on, right? We've stayed true to who we are, and we're not going to deviate away from that. That's been a lot of the fan feedback that we always hear in person. And so, I just feel like for everything that we can offer in terms of those talking points previously, it's hard to beat. And people really, really love that. So
We'll be back with more Diecast Breakdown after this word from our sponsors. Legendary Hollywood concept artist and designer Fireball Tim Lawrence has created 3 exclusive pieces of automotive art based on the 3 hosts of Diecast Breakdown. Get these and other brilliant designs printed on mugs and more at fireballtimgarage.art today.
Cast Heads magazine is a digital publication dedicated to enhancing the lives of collectors all across the world by providing information on new models, reviews on brands and diecast accessories like figures and dioramas, throwing light on customizers, photographers and people who contribute to making the diecast world vibrant. Subscribe to Cast Heads for free and look for collaborations with Diecast Media Network at castheadsmagazine.com.
And now back to Diecast Breakdown.
Could I ask a question, Darryl? When I look at the landscape back in the early 2000s, I look at, and I'm going to talk specifically about diecast. What about that Jada DNA said, let's do the custom car culture, let's give it its spotlight, when not a lot of companies were making it really mainstream in the toy and the diecast world. You guys killed it. Chuck was talking tongue in cheek when he said a little toy company, because you guys are beast when it comes to trend setting in the diecast space. So talk about maybe the decision to go all in on the custom cars and bringing that to the mainstream, and really, I mean, that and all the movies that we're all enjoying, like the Fast and Furious, we're all learning about these cars that we don't know about. And now we can buy them on a shelf, and that's because of Jada.
For us, we pride ourselves on being trendsetters and always looking for the next cool thing, right? And I think that's also another strand of Jada DNA that hasn't changed throughout these years. Going back to the Dub City days, back then, it was always looking for, like I said, the next coolest thing. And at the time, putting spinners on big chrome wheels and neon lights under the cars and leaning into the Fast and Furious vibes and things like that was so outlandish. People had never seen that before. And when you saw it in person, it was just like, wow, this is really cool for a real vehicle to have this kind of stuff. And to your point, there was nothing like that out on the collectible market yet. And so we saw an opportunity and we jumped at it and really just carved our name into this segment with being identified as the cool diecast manufacturer, right? And again, as we're looking to who we are today, that hasn't necessarily changed. These days, it just looks a little bit different with how car culture is being represented. Certainly, we're seeing a bit of nostalgia and the retro theme come back with like the underglow and things like that. And so we want to stay true to our heritage and incorporate that into our diecast collectibles. But to your point, also from the licensing aspect with things like Fast and Furious, which is honestly a cultural phenomenon. We see that the audience that grew up with those movies now are starting to have families of their own and introducing their kids to the movies. And it's kind of spurring this and driving this collectability and desire to just continue to grow this hobby and really get people into the car scene just in general. And so the fact that we're able to tap into not only that audience, but also say, hey, we also have this line of vehicles that's a little bit more broad and also very easily accessible, really encourages the new generation of collectors. So that's what we're all about. That's what we love. And it makes it really, really fun.
Yeah. Darryl, so I think one thing to piggyback off that is something that I can appreciate over the years. And when going down an aisle in Target or Fred Meyer's, I'm the JDM guy of the group here. So
there you go. So am I.
So I was going to ask you that, and I'll follow up with what kind of cars you're into. But when I was growing up, I went to hot import nights and stuff like that. And that was back when it was cool. It's kind of changed over the years, of course. It's not the same as it used to be. But when I go down the aisle and I see like your guys' stuff, it's like it really brings you back to those days. And there's a lot of design and they're like flashy and they got the deep dish wheels, the camber and stuff like that. And that's exciting for me because that kind of brings me back to those days of going to those events. And for me personally, of having some of those vehicles. So I think the draw to this day for people is how the feeling of nostalgia, like to see those cars. I mean, of course you guys have, it's not all JDM by any means, but like the ones that when I see like an FD with the deep dish wheels and like the crazy paint job, I'm like, picking it up. And if I'm not buying it, because I can't buy everything, we want to buy everything, but I'll at least like look at it, appreciate it, and say, maybe I don't have room for that right now. But it's really cool to see that there's still a brand that's going really strong all these years, and it hasn't like changed anything up. It's still going forward and trying to give people what they want instead of just putting stuff out there. If it doesn't do well, they get rid of it. There's a lot of other manufacturers that do that. So I think personally, like as an outside look, I think that's why you guys are doing really well too, is you're putting stuff out that people really enjoy and artistic. And that's kind of wild because a lot of stuff can be kind of blah, and it's always wild what you guys are doing. So appreciate that for sure.
No, and appreciate you for sharing that. Like, listen, I am a JDM fanboy at heart. That's just where I naturally lean towards. I actually came back from Japan like a week ago, attending Tokyo Auto Salon.
Yeah, we want to
go.
It was
It was amazing. And so personally speaking, I live and breathe JDM. A lot of my car projects are centered around JDM. And catch me at all the local cars and coffee events and things like that. I'm usually always there. But I definitely have love and respect to all makes and models. I think that's just at the end of the day, when you're a true car enthusiast, any sort of vehicle just kind of gets you excited, right? So having said that, I will say that the team at Jada, very much like myself. And so when we're creating these vehicles and identifying new brands, regardless if it's a exotic, a Euro, JDM, domestic, or a truck, we all live and breathe it. And I think that really shows and translates to the final product. So when we roll out the final product on shelf and a collector is able to admire whatever it is, for example, like an FD with deep dish wheels. Well, we're really critiquing that internally before it ever makes it to the shelf. Maybe the fitment is not correct. Maybe it can use a
mirrors,
different
everything.
A different tread pattern on the tires, or we really want to make sure that we nail the body kit that's on the car down to the paint execution. All of that stuff gets critiqued heavily by our internal team to ensure that we're rolling out an A+ product. And actually one of the classifications that we have internally is like, if we don't feel like this car could be taken to a real car show, it's not a strong, it doesn't really vibe with us. And so maybe we'll pull it back and revisit it at a later time, right? These are just some of the inner workings and things that we take into consideration. With
quality control
with all of our other brands too, and to hear the feedback not only from yourself but all the collectors alike, it's really rewarding.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. I think one of the last cars I bought of yours was the R35. It was like a 124 scale, and it's blue. The details on it were crazy. I mean, I have an R35, and
you're hitting on all the topics because I got an R35 also.
Oh, nice.
Oh no!
And so I'm like leaning into the GTR thing, or JDM thing. I'm just a big GTR guy mainly.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to Jada stuff, like I will generally critique the GTR stuff a little bit more heavily, just because
you're running out to the garage and going, nah, not quite.
Proportions.
Yeah, so I was looking at it like that.
Right?
So I was looking at those, and they look really good, and then I'm a big Hako guy, so I'm actually debating on selling my R35 because I've had it for about 7 years or so, and I've done everything I pretty much want to do to it. And so I want a 71 Hako and an R33 GTR. I have one on my property that's my buddy's, and he's ready to get rid of it. And I'm like, how much do you want for that thing?
Opportunities.
Well, I'm a big Skyline guy till the day I die. I mean, it's probably when it comes to I love all cars. I love muscle cars. I work on cars all the time, and I'll always pick a JDM over. I mean, it's just like you have a 67 Chevelle and you have like a 71 Skyline. I'm just like Skyline, but I love the US cars too, but they're just not as cool to me. Personally.
Like I said, I'm the same way. I got love and respect for all that stuff. I certainly want. I have a big itch actually for an old muscle car build. But yeah, I'll always go back to JDM. That's cool.
You can always branch out. Yeah, I mean, I've gotten the itch many times on the US cars, the USDM stuff, the old stuff. But
guys, there was that one time somebody took a Mustang and put a 2JZ in it. And
that's just one of those things that I just like never like. I feel off about that. I don't know.
I used to feel that way, but now I'm starting to get into this state of mind where it's
everything's okay. Like everything's like,
it's not even that. I just think I can definitely respect the A, creativity, and B, the balls to be able to do something like that.
I get it.
It's refreshing. It's refreshing. And I understand that might upset a lot of the purists and things like that. But in a day and age where I feel like everybody is trying to stand out just a little bit, as long as it keeps car culture alive, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it too. I mean, I had a 89 32 that I put a 2J in back before it was cool, and I was probably like the third one in the world to do it. So my buddy did a swap because he's got a shop called Jay-Z Powered Garage, and he puts Jay-Z's in everything. So, and this was also before it was a thing. Like, he put Jay-Z's in Volvos, M3s, like
Jay-Z
whatever.
the world.
Just Jay-Z the world. And so he put that in mine, and it was so cleanly done that I would pop the hood at shows, and people were like, oh, cool. And this was probably, I don't know, like 15 years ago. And I'd say, take another look. Like, take another look. And then they go, oh, no way. Because they didn't realize it was a 2JZ.
Yeah.
But because I'm a diehard Toyota guy, but I'm also a diehard Nissan guy.
Yeah,
so
Jay-Z's, RBs, both great. Yeah, both great.
Yeah, both great. I think the Jay-Z, it definitely has a little bit more reliability factors to it.
But I will say,
just the way it is.
I think RBs sound better.
Yeah, they do. They don't sound like boom. They don't sound so. Yeah, but yeah, I can understand. I have pretty much everything I own besides my R35 is swapped. I swapped something else into it, but that always carries its gremlins that you have to figure out when something's not working right. So
always, that's cool. Yeah. But this is what I'm saying, right? Like for us at Jada, like we live and breathe this stuff, and we can talk about cars and projects and swaps and things like that, like.
So your face
all
turns
day,
blue, yeah.
Right? And so to be able to have that passion for vehicles and have that translate to the collectibles, no matter what we're doing, that's in a way, it's kind of like a dream come true. So
for sure. Yeah, it's a magical thing.
Yeah.
Don't touch that dial. Diecast Breakdown will be right back after these messages. Diecast Breakdown is produced in partnership with Twice Diecast and Driven Dreams Org on YouTube. Check out their channels in the video description and subscribe for more epic Diecast content.
Hey, this is Larry Wood.
This is Derek from Honest Diecast.
Hey, this is Chad Reed from Round 2.
This is Mike from Gaslands.
The SRT Jovita Show.
This is Champion DJ K.
This is Mad Vision here.
This is Diecast Dude.
And you're watching Diecast Breakdown.
And now, the thrilling conclusion of this week's episode of Diecast Breakdown.
All right. Well, they do other stuff besides JDM.
We do.
They do. And one of those things that I really like is you guys do a lot of movie and TV show related vehicles. Those are more my wheelhouse. And something that you've also gotten me to break a very important rule in my collection. Which my collection a while ago, years ago, I said, I'm only doing 164 from here on out. I'm not doing anything bigger, anything smaller. I had way too big a collection. I downsized a lot. And then you guys came out with that Nano series. And man, is that Nano series cool. Yeah. And the Fast and the Furious ones, I've got all of those the dioramas, the house, the shop, the train, and then the Back to the Future one with the clock tower in the street and the little Toyota pickup. Holy cow. Those things are just the best. And I even did a build of Doc Brown's van, and I used a certain other brand's van that has little opening doors in the back. And it was just the Nano Back to the Future DeLorean is just the right size to sit inside the back facing out. So it's got the DeLorean in the back of it.
That's so cool. So cool.
And what was the story behind the Nano series? What scale exactly is that? Is it a scale or is it just kind of vary? How did that whole line come around?
Well, first of all, you're not the first person to say that we've gotten others to break a rule of only collecting one particular scale. Seems like we've done a pretty good job at convincing people to go outside of the 164 scale, whether that's for a bigger 24 scale or even a even bigger 18 scale. But it's cool to hear that now we're talking about the Nano scale. That's an interesting one. That kind of came about with the Fast and Furious license first. It was just kind of an item that came to life from a brainstorm with our good partners at Universal. And then we had one video of Dom's house. That was the first one, which we called the Nano Scene. It came with the two iconic cars, right?
Sure.
That video went viral for a little bit on social media. And we're like, hey, I think we have something here.
Right.
I don't think people like it enough.
Like let's continue to build onto it. And so really it just evolved into something where as people that love movies or pop culture in general, being able to offer something that just kind of freezes a moment in time, like an iconic scene. We just thought that positioning was great. And again, as fans of cars and movies, pop culture, all of that stuff internally, we just kind of geek out when we're internally talking about this idea, like, oh, how cool would it be if we had this property and we did this scene from the movie, right? So that's kind of how it came about. And regarding your question to the scale, we've gotten that question quite a bit, and the answer is generally the same. We don't really classify it as a scale other than a nanoscale. That's just what we call it internally. Outwardly, we also say that it's just a nanoscale to be able to achieve something like that with a decent level of quality, but also have it be able to roll back and forth.
Sure.
And just be a nice complementary display piece to the scene.
Sure. Well, and you've got the other ones too, like the G.I. Joe ones and the Transformer ones, where of course Optimus Prime is not going to be the same scale because you're keeping it to a particular length. Like Starscream is a much smaller scale because he's an F-15 Eagle fighter jet. So those are all great. I think they're fantastic. And again, you made me break a very important rule, but I'm glad I did. And I love the
breaking rules.
I
At
love
least they're small.
They are very small. That I do like. And
Stepping
I love
on those things
I
in
love
the dark.
that I love that Mark, do you have one of the house ones?
No, but
Okay.
I had the micro machines and stuff as a kid. And
the house one comes with a little dining table and a grill and little tiny chairs, and those things, oh my gosh, you just you breathe the wrong way. They are so small. You gotta be very careful around them. And I've got 2 kids, so I'm always like, all right, we have all the chairs. Where do they go? Where the chairs run off to? So I actually bought a second one just in case I lose, because I was like, I'm going to lose.
You got a donor
set. You got to have a redundant set for sure. So, but those are great. So kudos to those. And I mean, you got Back to the Future and Fast and Furious, G.I. Joe,
all the
Transformers,
Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Yep. Is there a Ghostbusters one?
Might be. Maybe.
Oh.
You heard it here. Heard it here first, folks.
Gotta give a little nugget in here.
Oh boy,
little Easter egg.
You're speaking my language now. That's my costume every year for Halloween is a Ghostbuster.
I don't know. I mean, the thing with us, and we get quite a lot of questions too, right? Is like, oh, what's next? What's next? Well, the answer is generally the same too. Is because we've evolved into this giant powerhouse of licensing deals with the
relationships
out here. It's like anything could be a possibility as long as it makes sense, right? So,
My Little Ponies. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the range of our Hollywood Rides line, for example, it has the bulk of all our licenses that we work with, and so to see it possibly appear in another range, it's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah. So kind of on that same line, I want to talk about the Simba Dickey transition in 2019, right? Talk about the benefits of having this really humongous, well-established company come in and offer their strength to an already solid brand like Jada Toys. What does that mean to a company like Jada in terms of what you can do now?
It has honestly been the perfect match. Since our acquisition back in 2018, there was no real other company that we felt like was going to be the perfect fit. With them being based out in Germany, certainly they have the European UK market down there, that they have a very, very strong footing. And so they had desires to want to expand into the US market. And so I'm a firm believer that timing is everything. And so at the time when the opportunity popped up and the Simba Dickey Group had interest, we were kind of looking at each other internally and we're like, this makes perfect sense, because we also, like I've been mentioning so far, just a vast portfolio of licenses, and we already have our foot in the door with our great partners at Walmart and Target. It was an easy transition for them to acquire us and then just hit the ground running, right? Now, through the acquisition itself, they have been great to work with. And I think the biggest reason for that is because Jada was privately owned. family business, and the Symbadiki Group is very much a family business too. So a lot of those family values of treating the team and really want to maintain that carried through the acquisition. And so for us at Jada, it's been wonderful. We remain fully autonomous. We do what we do in terms of our expertise with licensing and creating cool vehicles and good product. So it's been great all around. And to your point of having such a big entity support you, that makes everything a little bit easier, right? Because now when you're talking about like overall toy company, we are now a full-fledged global toy company, being able to offer a variety of different things, right? Yeah. And strategically being able to lean on each other's strengths in different markets. And even when it comes to product development and collaborating on future lines, which I'm sure you guys might have heard. We might have something coming for Diecast Supercon, right? Like these are now possibilities that were not there before. And so to be able to find the synergy together and really amplify through each other's networks, it's been wonderful, honestly. And then they're great people to work with. There's not enough good things to say about that team. The collaboration with them has been wonderful, and hopefully for many, many years to come too.
Yeah. No, I agree. And when I look at the Symbadiki website, it's almost scarily wholesome. You look at it and you're like,
that's the family aspect.
But yeah, you get that whole vibe. And like, if they're willing for that to be your first impression of this big company, that's got to be really important to them. And when we hear you talk, it does seem like a perfect fit. We'll get into it a little bit later, but an amazing collaboration was just revealed for the upcoming Diecast Super Convention. We'll talk about that later, but I want to put that out there now to make sure that we do talk about it before we cut the interview.
Darryl, I wanted to ask you about, I believe it was 2024 when you guys paired up with Sung Kang with the Liberty Walk partnership. And those are a couple of my favorite things. Sung Kang's super cool dude. For anyone that doesn't ring a bell, it's Han, Tokyo Drift, and all the other movies. He's been in a ton of them. Seems like a really down-to-earth guy from what I've never met him, but I'd like to.
We would like to.
Yeah, we'd like to. We'd like to have him
hint.
on sometime. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. And then Liberty Walk. I mean, Liberty Walks is amazing. I recently was watching, I think, Haggerty TV. I'm a big fan of the Haggerty channel. And they go through and show us everything with Liberty Walk. The 40 that they built, that's nuts. All the other skylines that they have. Yeah, it's just, I got to go there. And then they have their old building, they have their new building. And it's the same story. I think you can probably relate to them because they're going outside the lines with stuff. They're ticking off Ferrari. Ferrari probably got a cease and desist letter for like really quickly. Who knows?
Yeah.
But they don't care. They'll take anything. Ferrari, Lamborghini. Like I think they had a Countach that they're doing on next or something like that. Lamborghini. So it's like it doesn't matter what it is. They're going to make it so much cooler. So yeah, just tell us how that came about and maybe what's to come in the future if you have any information on that.
Absolutely. So it's a long-winded story, but I'll try and make it brief. But there are also two separate things. So with Sung, actually, it's so great. And everything that you mentioned about him is absolutely factual. He's the most down-to-earth car guy that I feel like you could ever meet. And the relationship happened so organically, which is the best thing, in my opinion. Certainly, we're a big partner with Universal in the production of all the Fast and Furious cars. And it just so happened that he had a 240Z that was in one of the movies, which
he's a big Dawson guy.
Which he had named Doc Z, right? It was a black and red one. It had a ghosted koi fish in it. It made a very, very quick cameo appearance in one of the Fast movies. And so we did it. And he got wind of it and reached out to our team, our marketing agency, actually, asking for a few samples. And then we requested a meeting with him and just to introduce ourselves and things like that. And the relationship, like I said, organically just kind of blossomed from that point. And we were like, we feel like this is a match made in heaven. We should do something together. It'd be really, really cool. And so we've always had an ambition to want to work with him, not as Sung Kang, the actor, but Sung Kang, the car enthusiast, right? Those are two very different things. And so in getting to know him and talk with him just about his love for all things automotive and the way he talks about his cars, it's really refreshing, because I think from a average person's point of view, you see this icon, right? This actor, and you kind of go into it with a somewhat of a perception because he's a celebrity actor.
Sure.
But quite the contrary, he's not like that.
He's a chill dude.
He's just very genuine, and that's my favorite thing about him. And so all that to say, the relationship with him has been very organic up to this point, which, like I said, is the best thing. And he is our brand ambassador, so we are going to be developing a line with him, just around him, with his cars, his figure, things like that. So more on that to be shared probably at Diecast Supercon in greater detail. But that'll be ready by middle of this year. So I'm excited to release that.
That's
so separate from that is now Liberty Walk. And that's an interesting component because we partnered with them to build a modern interpretation of a Fast and Furious car, right? And so that's where we had the conversation with our partners at Universal to continue to celebrate the global impact that the Fast franchise has had specifically on car culture. The conversation was pretty much like, hey, obviously what we do in terms of the Diecast collectibles, we want to continue to celebrate the Fast franchise. And because we're always out at these grassroots events, why not let us have our hand to build something with Jada style, right? Going back to that term. And so that's kind of how it came about. And so we reached out to Liberty Walk, and they were totally on board with that. And so together we built a Liberty Walk silhouette GTR that has the modern interpretation of the silver Skyline from Too Fast, Too Furious that Paul Walker drove. And so that's the car that I roll out to all of the local events and things like that. And it's always fun to be able to bring that car out. Now, we're also scaling our partnership with Liberty Walk, right? So obviously we have an official partnership together. So we're going to be replicating a bunch of Liberty Walk cars into different diecast models, whether that's in 24 scale, 32 scale, or even RC, right? So that's the scope of the partnership. And actually part of the reason why I was at Tokyo Auto Salon was a guest of Liberty Walk. So I had the opportunity to be able to hang out with them at the show, kind of see what the vibe is like, go visit their offices out in Japan, which is insane, by the way.
Yeah, I think it was Larry Chen's video. I think that was it was nuts.
So to see that in person was super cool. And it was at the end of Tokyo Auto Salon. So all the cars were coming back, right? So the Ferrari F40 was back out there, and was able to see the 32 Cairo Racer that they unveiled.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But it's cool, man, because I think once you're in it, you start meeting these people and you form these relationships. And it's like you start to see who has a hand in either helping to build a car or putting an event together or doing the media stuff. And it just becomes like this tight circle. And it's just so cool to see. John Sabal, who's also a very good friend, he helped design the livery that's on our GTR. And he's also helped us design a few other diecast vehicles in the past as well. But he had a hand in developing the Lamborghini Miura wide body kit that they also unveiled at Tokyo Auto Salon. Right. So it's just,
I haven't even seen that yet, I don't think.
It's wild. And so it just comes full circle where you're like, oh, you're working with them and now we're working with you. And it's just
that's how it should be.
Exactly. So it's cool. And so we're very excited to have Liberty Walk as one of our partners. I think you're going to see a lot of cool things from us starting this year, going into the next 2-3 years. The plan is to really grow out that Liberty Walk portfolio. They are one of the biggest in the Japanese tuning scene. And again, to your point, I love the ambition and creativity to just push the limit, right? Going back to our small conversation of the Jay-Z or RB in a Mustang, right? But like, who has the idea to think to cut up a Ferrari F40? So
because they just want to, they want to make it their style.
I love being able to push the boundaries of things and do something that kind of goes against, I don't know, tradition. It's just refreshing to see. And again, it might not be everyone's taste, but can't deny that it doesn't look cool. So
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that I like about watching, like, basically, like, baby documentary about him is that he was, I think Larry Chen was driving his R34 and it, like, the AC went out in it and they just pulled it in and fixed it right there at Liberty Walk. And he's like, Liberty Walk's fixing my AC in my, they just did it, just got in there and fixed it.
They're also the most down-to-earth people. For as big as they are now in the automotive scene, like, I can't even, there are no words to describe, like, the hospitality that they showed, not only myself, but some of the others that were along on the trip, understanding that Tokyo Auto Salon is such a huge event for them. They were just very, very kind every step of the way. I think that that all translates into the final product, where it's like, understandably, you can see there's a great connection. There's a great relationship there. Everything is super organic, and there's just a passion and love for this kind of stuff. And then when you have everything outside of that also be like A+, it affects the overall product, and everything is a win. So that's what makes it really exciting.
For sure.
Right.
Chuck,
David?
you got something?
You guys have been doing great.
Well,
I like these ones.
I'm just hanging out. Yeah.
I like the ones where Mark comes out of his shell some. So that's good.
I can talk about cars and things like that all day.
Sure.
Yeah, start talking JDM and it's light up.
David and I are like over here going, yes, engines.
Yeah. Well, I guess the last thing to touch on with like Sung Kang, the reason I like the guy so much is like too is because I've got a buddy down in California that's got insane amount of, like, he's got the cleanest Z240Z. He's got a Hako. He's got a 510. He's got multiple cars, and he told me that Sung Kang reached out to him because he liked his wheel fitment on his 240, and they chatted on the phone for 2 hours. So it's just like,
that's who he is, though.
Yeah, just a regular dude. And he's like, dude, we just chatted for like a couple hours about wheel fitments and what I'm doing on this, because he liked the way this looked and he liked all my cars, and that's cool because I don't get hung up on celebrities very often. I don't get starstruck. It's just, but I kind of do when they're down to earth people, like when they're just like talking to anybody, like they're just regular people and just chatting. That's when I have respect for actors and race car drivers and all that kind of stuff. It's when
absolutely, and like that's who he is. And I've mentioned this to him a few times also. I'm the same way. I don't really get starstruck at all, but there are moments where you're having a conversation with him and you're just talking about cars, and I have to pull myself back, and I'm like, is this really happening right now? Like, this is like, this is actually really cool. But he's that kind of guy, and he's very inquisitive, and the way that he talks about the projects or the cars that he has, or anything really. I just use cars as the focal point because obviously that's the basis of what we talk about primarily.
Sure.
He can go into the greatest length and detail about the engine setup and where it came from, who made it, why we chose it, and everything in between. Like everything in any of his cars, what he chooses to do with them matters, and everything has a story. And if there's no reason for it, then it doesn't matter, and it shouldn't be on the car, right? So very rarely do you find an enthusiast like that really can go into the greatest detail of even like a little license plate bolt.
Everything is intentional.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so refreshing to be around. And it's also, quite honestly, just as a car guy, very inspiring, very refreshing. To that point, obviously, when we're developing his car into the Diecast collectibles, we want to be able to tell that story. We also want to be able to share it and do the actual model justice, right? With as much attention to detail that he puts into the real car, we want to be able to do our part and capture all those details within the Diecast model. Certainly we're limited because we only have so much of a size that we can work with, but we want to make sure that all the finer details are there as much as we can.
Awesome. And we've alluded to this a little bit, but do you want to talk a little bit more about Diecast Supercon, what's coming up, what to expect, what are some of the things that Jada is bringing to this show that people should come out to see?
Yeah. So we are returning to Diecast Supercon as the title sponsor, something that we're really excited about. We're super excited to see a lot of our industry friends out there and seeing all the new exciting things that they're going to be bringing out. For us to be able to see familiar faces of the event organizers of the show, to see your guys in person and be able to have that live interaction. And just be able to have FaceTime with the fan base that are just fans of Jada. I think that's the thing that we always value the most. That's the most rewarding. Product-wise, I think people are going to see something really exciting, something that we've never done as Jada. So alluding to it a little bit earlier, we're going to be officially showcasing our collaboration line with our parent company in Sibidiki and their brand Majorette. This brand will be called the Collection Series, and everything about it is going to be super, super premium and very intentional. So it is.
Yes, David's like, tell me more. He's the premium guy.
It is going to be a premium line of 1/64 scale vehicles. There's a few golden nuggets that I'm going to withhold for now that I will share at the event of what makes this line extra special, let's say. There's certainly a nice marketing strategy behind it that I think a lot of diecast collectors and enthusiasts will appreciate. But it's also our song to give back to the community, right? Kind of mentioning it a little bit before. We want to do justice to these vehicles and really have it well represented. And as much as we want to say we want to differentiate ourselves within the 1/64 scale market and things like that, there's only so much that you can do. So we just want to make sure that we're representing the Jada brand name the best that we can while we enter this space with the team at Majorette. It's going to be super, super exciting. And so not only will we be showcasing the entire first wave, but we're also going to be having a Diecast Supercon exclusive. We're going to take one of the cars in the first wave. It's going to be a different color treatment. It'll have a bit of a special packaging, and it'll be the first time that people attending the show will be able to actually not only see, but purchase the first Majorette collection vehicle there.
It's amazing.
That's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
David got me hooked on Majorette. So
I did.
Look. Hey, they have quite the history. Yeah, they have quite the history. For people that are not as familiar, I mean, they go back
way back,
like 1960s.
Yeah, Majorette was my first foray into like the idea that other countries around the world were making cool diecasts. I was like, wait. What is happening here? And look, I want to touch on this, Darryl, real quick, because you guys are doing a special event at the Supercon that the organizer Steve Johnson has put together for the ladies, which is kind of cool. There's like a wine and chocolate event. You talked about you're holding the golden nuggets for later for at the show, but we are going to run with that theme because at this event, fans, and if you're going to the Supercon, I want you to listen. There's going to be an event with chocolate and wine, and some of the boxes of chocolate might have a golden ticket in it, and that would mean a prize, probably going to be a really cool Jada piece. As far as we know, up to now, it might change, but look for that.
Be cool.
Okay, yeah, look for that in future posts here on Diecast Media Network. I just wanted to get that in before we wrap up. I think it's really cool because you just talked about that interaction with the community, and I love the fact that you guys are part of an event for the female collectors and the spouses. And we want everybody to have a good time at the Super Convention. And that's just another way that it's going to happen.
That's what it's all about. Like I said, anytime we are able to have the opportunity to have FaceTime with people that actually collect our stuff and are fans of the brand, that's always the most rewarding thing for myself and the team, honestly. And this year is going to be extra special just because now, although we were acquired in 2018, this will be the first actual collaboration facing that we'll have as Jada and Majorette together. And what makes it extra special is that the Majorette team just announced their brand refresh. And so they have a new look, they have a new feel, a new logo, and now we're launching a new collaboration project with them.
It's all coming together.
Yeah. It's just really driving home that synergy. And for us to be able to partner with them and represent them here in the US, that's a great honor. And certainly we're looking to do the best that we can to represent them as well as we can. And so, like I said earlier, it's a match made in heaven. And I think this year's Supercon is going to be extra special for us because of that. And we couldn't think of a much better event to be able to come out with that news and showcase the new line and all that good stuff.
It's going to be awesome.
Fantastic. Can't wait. All right, folks. Well, you heard it all here. Get on out to Vegas if you can, and
we'll see
come
you
say
there.
hi to the four of us, because we'll be there, and we're looking forward to seeing you there as well. Well, Darryl, again, I can't thank you enough for joining us. We've been thrilled at the idea of having Jada on, and now we have. I usually ask people where you can find them and follow them, where to find Jada. Just go out there.
At Jada Toys.
At Jada Toys.
At a mass retail store. That too.
Yeah. Just go to any major place where finer toys are sold, and you're going to find that Jada name. And they do a Mighty Mean Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am. So check them out. Comes with a belt buckle. It's pretty cool. So, all righty. Well, thank you again, Darryl. And thank you, watchers, listeners, wherever you are, for making it to the end of yet another episode. If you want to leave a little comment on the YouTube video and let us know you made it to the end, we love the Shutdown crew over here, and we like to give you a little special thank you. So leave that. And while you're down there typing stuff, why don't you make sure you hit the like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. If you're tired of looking at our faces, you can listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. And if you're tired of listening to us, you can look at our faces on your favorite YouTube app. So go check that out. And of course, visit diecastbreakdown.com, where you can become a patron, much like the people you're seeing on my screen if you're watching us on YouTube, that is. Again, shout out to those patrons that make the show go. And a shout out to you for making it to the end of another episode. And as always, we want to thank you for coming along with us for the ride. So until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags.
Thanks for listening to Diecast Breakdown. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and tell a friend to listen in. Find Diecast Breakdown on your favorite social media platforms, or visit diecastmedianetwork.com to learn more about this and our other projects. Diecast Breakdown is a presentation of Flying Valiant and the Diecast Media Network.